Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa. Fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
All right, so we have made it to week 16 and our fantasy football championship games and week. We are going a little bit earlier today as Christmas is on Friday. So Dennis is here, as is Matt. We are going to preview the entire week 16 NFL slate. Hopefully help you make some good decisions to get you that elusive championship. I am in 9. Still one pending at the moment. We'll figure out how that's going to work. So I'm hoping to get at least a little bit of championships this week. Matt, how is your fantasy season rolling out for you?
Well, I made it in 5 championships, so I'm looking forward to that. And also, I think it's fitting that in a 2020 where the NFL has managed to play a regular season game on every day of the week at some point, that we have managed to now do a podcast on every day of the week at some point.
Yeah. Dennis, how about your season? What are you looking at going into week 16?
I have 1 championship and 4 third-place games. I'm still holding out hope on a stat correction, much like yourself.
I don't think I'm getting on stat
behind by 0.92 because on that very last drive, Ben Roethlisberger decided to roll out to his right, and instead of throwing it 5 yards to an open Deontay Johnson, he threw it 6 yards to a covered Juju Smith-Schuster for an incompletion. So that chapped my ass pretty good.
If Matt gets a stat correction, it's probably not going to help his championship cause.
Yes, it will hurt me, but that's okay. I just want this to be taken care of. It's very like I said, the other guy who's in this tie with me is like tweeting at the NFL and everything. Like, it's not that serious to me. I'm okay with whatever happens, but I just don't think we're going to get it. Everything really seems to say that he has got 3 catches for 15 yards, and that's what MFL has his points at. So I don't know where the stat correction is going to come from. But if it does,
the stat correction can come from any game, not just the Monday night game.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, I guess that's true. I don't know. If the stat correction comes and it helps me, great. If not, it looks like right now, based on our league voting, we will both be playing in the championship weekend against the other opponent. So, I mean, I guess I won't, it just gives Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones another chance to take me over the top. So, not gonna worry about it either way. Either I'm playing for second place, or I'm playing for first place, or I'm playing for third eventually here. So, anyways, we've got the entire week 16. We've got 1 game on Friday, 3 on Saturday, including 1 on Amazon Prime, which, the more me and Matt were talking about it yesterday, the more I've realized that is going to be a little bit annoying because I'm going to have to either watch that on my laptop or phone. There's no way to actually watch that on TV. Or is there?
You don't have Amazon? You don't have Amazon
Prime? I do, actually, yes.
And let me tell you, I discovered something in the last week when I was lazy and just on my Roku. I watched both Monday Night Football on the ESPN app, and I watched the Thursday night game on the Amazon Prime app. And my God, the clarity of the picture was better than my satellite package.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. When I put up all my stuff on YouTube TV, whenever I'm watching it on my laptop or phone, I tend to start watching those games more than I do my actual TV that I've got up for Red Zone, because I can't have I can put Red Zone on my computer, but I can't use Red Zone on my big TV because it's connected to my satellite dish as well, because of obviously having to have DirecTV. But then you've got obviously the rest of the games. We have a Monday night game, right? This next week that there's no Monday Night Football game? Is that correct?
No, there's Monday night this week, but not in week 17.
Yeah, it's just that late Sunday night game, which is usually like some big flex for would maybe possibly be Brown Steelers, depending on what happens this weekend. So exciting times in NFL and fantasy football. So let's kick it off with the Christmas Day game here. We got the 6-8 Minnesota Vikings at the 10-4 New Orleans Saints. For the Vikings, Kyle Rudolph and Alexander Mattison are questionable. Obviously, going up against a good passing defense now in the Vikings over the past 4 or 5 games. You're starting Dalvin Cook. There's no doubt about that. What are your guys' thoughts on Thielen and Jefferson with the Vikings and possibly Kirk Cousins?
Well, I think you're rolling Thielen and Jefferson out. You're in the championship game. Thielen and Jefferson have both performed pretty well all season long. They're, top 15 wide receivers. And
I think they're actually top 12, aren't they?
I was ballparking.
No, I'm just saying. I actually think they're both top 12.
Thielen for sure is. I'll check.
I'm pretty sure Jefferson is as well, because I was kind of surprised when someone brought up how, I know he's been doing good, but when they were like, oh, yeah, he's like a top, I think, 12, I was like, really? I didn't realize he's been that good.
Well, Jefferson has been getting the catch volume and the yardage volume, and Thielen has been getting the touchdowns. And so they're both performing really, really well. And, I'd even be inclined to roll out Irv Smith with no
Rudolph.
Cousins is what Cousins is. And if New Orleans puts up points.
ESPN shows Jefferson as 8 and Thielen as 12 in standard PPR.
I'll pull up what's the other one? The other one that with PPR stuff. Continue, Dennis. I'll look real quick.
So, I feel like as good as New Orleans defense is, their offense is pretty good as well and can put up some points even without Michael Thomas. So it'll be a situation where Minnesota's likely playing a little bit of catch up, and they're going to have to probably put up at least 30 points to win this game. So do I think Smith will be tight end 5? Maybe not, but he's certainly going to probably be a top 12, top 14 tight end.
So PPR scoring, they're the same. Jefferson is 8 and Thielen is 12. So Kirk Cousins doing it again, putting 2 wide receivers in top 12. That's and I know he's having a good year too, of course. After I finally get rid of him and give up on old Captain Clutch, he comes through for you. And what is he sitting at right now? He's 11, so he's a top 12 asset as well. Yeah, I like to call on Irv Smith. We talked about him a couple years ago, hoping he'd finally break out. He's had a couple good games this year, most being with Kyle Rudolph being out as well. So hopefully with Rudolph being out, he'll have a good game here. I'm with you, though. Firing up Thielen, you're firing up Jefferson.
Well, Rudolph's not officially out. He's questionable, but he's been limited practices and also playing against New Orleans. I'm not going any deeper than the 3 star players.
All right, fair enough. On the Saints side, Traquan Smith is questionable with an ankle. Aside from Kamara, who are you trusting from the Saints team in your championship game?
They got to get points from somewhere, right?
You would think so.
So it's Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith. Is Smith injured? I know Callaway is.
They said
Smith is questionable with an ankle injury. He has not been practicing.
And then, Jared Cook. Who's their third receiver if Quez Callaway is out? I forget.
Isn't it the punt returner?
Austin Carr.
Deontay Harris injured too.
That's wow. Let's look. I'll look.
Taysom Hill's probably their third receiver at this point in time. Yeah. There's nothing that gift of professional football can't do.
Let's see.
I don't know about that, but
little Jordan Humphrey. That's right. He caught the touchdown earlier this week. We were talking about him. Yeah, little Jordan Humphrey would be the third.
The Saints are middle of the road against the tight end, so that doesn't that bodes okay for Irv Smith. It's where's Minnesota? Anyways, Jared Cook, this could be a Jared Cook game because they don't have anybody else. So it's Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook. Is Latavius Murray gonna, will they run more two-back set with Murray and Kamara on the field at the same time? That could be an approach for them to take as well. I don't think you're starting Murray expecting top 24 numbers, but he'll definitely be flex worthy, I would expect. And I don't know that Sanders will be a, top 20 wide receiver, but he should. It'll be a situation where Breeze is going to spread the wealth around, and that'll be tough for fantasy. But they got to get their points from somewhere.
Yeah, and last week they used Latavius Murray actually in some screen passes and stuff. He caught a touchdown. So to me, he still has some flex value. I might feel better about him than little Jordan Humphrey if I was pressed. It's a bummer to me a little bit that Traquan is questionable or banged up, because it seemed like when Michael Thomas was out earlier in the season, he had good chemistry with Breeze. But last week I was happy with he seemed to have chemistry with Sanders, and this is obviously a much weaker defense they're playing against. So hopefully we can go back to superstar Alvin Kamara status rather than just good Alvin Kamara status.
Yeah, for me, it's just Kamara. I don't think I could trust putting any of these other guys in. If I'm pushed to put in maybe Emmanuel Sanders or Cook, I'd do it. But I think at this point, I'm just trying not to lose, and I feel like throwing a Hail Mary, as good as Smith was with Breeze, I feel like Smith is kind of a Hail Mary play. Now, granted, you might have to, depending on your league type or who was all available. You never know how some people's teams look, but I think comfortable. The only one I'm starting is Kamara. I am picking the Saints to win this game. What about you guys?
Saints.
Yep.
All right. The Amazon Prime game, the 9-5 Tampa Bay. Wait, it's the other one. I'm sorry.
This is NFL Network. They dumped 49ers Cardinals on Amazon Prime.
Makes sense.
Spare the 49ers.
Yeah, that's what I forgot. So the late game here, 9-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the 5-9 Detroit Lions. For Tampa Bay, Rojo is doubtful again for this week. Obviously, Fournette stepped in last week and played really good. Do you trust starting him again this week? And as me and Matt discussed earlier in the week, they have a glutton of wide receivers here who can put up fantasy points. So which ones are you trusting to pull it out for you this week?
Well, I think that this is a great game to start Tampa assets. And Fournette should be able to he's probably the tops my list. He's, along with being the Tampa nickel running back, with Rojo out, he's also the guy carrying the ball. So he should get plenty of touches. I like Evans. I think Evans is the top dog when it comes to that receiving core. So it'll probably be a Scotty Miller game.
Or Antonio Brown gets like 3 touchdowns just to make us all.
Yeah.
I'll roll our eyes. I do kind of like Fournette. He got 2 touchdowns last week against Atlanta, and this is not a much better rush defense. Apologies to our friend Dennis there. I know you like Detroit. Hopefully
they'll get what it is,
defensive linemen. So it seemed like when they were getting close, they were happy to give Fournette the ball and let him pound it in, which is kind of a bummer for all the receivers, if you ask me, but especially Evans and Gronk, because they had been that short yardage red zone group. I'm probably with Dennis, and I think you said this the other day, Evans is probably the one I feel the best about. But I have Godwin in a couple places, and I'm rolling the dice. I did it last week, and at least we got a touchdown, so.
Yeah, I'm fine firing up Fournette. It doesn't look like Vaughn's really going to be involved in this offense much this year. They didn't give a single snap to McCoy, which was kind of surprising, at least with the way Arians has handled his running backs earlier in the year. So I'm all in on Fournette as well. If you've got him, you might as well play him now, because you're not really going to get another chance, I don't think, next year. Or we probably will get a chance next year, but who knows where he goes. And
not with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'll continue to say, as much as it hurts my heart, this is definitely the year that fantasy is just giving me the big middle finger like Josh Jacobs did all of us a couple weeks ago, because of Mike Evans having a year, Amari Cooper having a year. I'm sticking with Mike Evans. He's whether it's him getting the catches in the yards in one game and then touchdowns in the other, he just seems to be the most consistent of the three. I think Godwin would be the second one for me. I trust him more over Antonio Brown and Miller, but Evans would be the one I would expect to be able to put up the points for you this week. I've got a question sent to me on Twitter. I'll ask you guys. Let's get the Detroit side first, though. So Galladay is listed as questionable. If he plays, would you guys start him?
I mean, if he plays, you got to start him. But I can't imagine they're going to play him now. Like, what's the point? And I get the tough guy, got to be there for my team. Stafford's doing it. I get all of that, but I mean, shit. It's a lost season at this point.
Yeah.
But if he plays, you got to play him if you're rostering him.
I mean, I'm going to go the other way. If he's active, I'm not playing him. He just hasn't been out there that much. And Tampa Bay has a pretty good secondary. Last week they struggled with Ridley, or they let Ridley go for a lot. But the week before, they smothered Jefferson and Thielen.
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay, with that hip's been bothering him all year. Said he's still barely practicing. I mean, if they fire him up, I guess it's just maybe so he can get some of the roster or the active incentives in his contract or something. I don't know why you would play him at this point, and I wouldn't trust him. I need to see it.
Yeah, I kind of sided with you, Matt. I love Galladay, and if there was anything else where maybe he's only missed like a week or two, I'd fire him up in a heartbeat because he's I think still one of the best wide receivers in the league. The fact that he's missed 6 weeks now in a row, 7 weeks, I'd be terrified for him to just go in there, and if it takes one more hit on that hip, you put him in, maybe he gets you one catch, maybe even if that catch is a touchdown, then pulled out. I think you've obviously gotten
or
to
ends up being
out
Keenan Allen from Thursday night, where he was out there and maybe he gets one or two catches, but mostly he's out there to draw coverage.
Yeah, like you've gotten to this point without him, so you've proved that you don't need him. I think at this point I'd rather play the safe bet and not use him. So I would kind of fade using him as well. Obviously, Hawkinson was good up until last week. How do you guys feel about him and Swift? Are those the only two guys that you're playing, even with the great game by Marvin Jones last week?
Well, I've got Marvin Jones going in a consolation game. I think Jones has shown to be pretty consistent, and he does have some upside. A lot of it just comes down to the matchup with this game. It's going to be, Detroit's just not playing very well this year. Stafford's dinged up. It's all about what are my options. So, I've got a situation where I have I'm choosing between Breeze, who's playing with the ribs and doesn't have the zip on his ball, and Stafford, who's playing on a bad team and playing injured as well. It's like who for me, I feel like I'm going to go with Breeze because I feel like that team is going to have to score some more points. They've got better weapons.
They're playing the Vikings.
Yeah. And so it's like, that to me seems to be a better option for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Swift and Hawkinson are the upside plays based on what they've done this season. It's not a great matchup, but if you're, you got to kind of roll with it. We talked about on Monday, I played Hawkinson in a playoff game last week, and that 1.8 points was tough to take. Part of the reason I got knocked out, but he's been a top 5 option at the position this season. I think you're playing him, and Swift has been the best explosive option in their backfield. But I'm probably not taking a chance on like a Marvin Jones or anyone else down the line.
Yeah, I like we talked about it on Monday, obviously with Hawkinson's performance. You're still playing him. He's probably, as I mentioned on that show, and I'll say it again here, probably for me going to be in that elite tier moving forward of tight ends. I think he's up there with Kittle, Andrews, Kelsey. So I'm playing him. It was a bad game, but outside of that, like Matt, you just said, he's been great all year long. He's been a top 5 tight end. You're playing Swift. They seem to have been – they were moving to or using him a lot more before, obviously, the injury, and then whether it was sickness, COVID, we never really got an exact answer on that, but he missed time for that and then came back and was absolutely dynamic last week. I don't care who he's playing. Defensive-wise, because he catches the ball out of the backfield and he can run the ball. So you're putting Swift in your lineup.
Is there any, before you pick, is there any concern with Darrell Bevel possibly being out because of COVID tracing?
No.
And the quarterback's coach being the play caller.
Who did they say? I thought they said Darrell Bevel was going to coach. Did they not?
No, he's isolating right now. Let's see.
I thought they were.
Let's see. It would be Sean Ryan would be likely call off the offensive plays if Bevel can't coach on Saturday.
See, I thought they were saying that he was moving toward being able to coach. I mean, no. For me, I wouldn't. I'd still play Swift. I don't understand why they would. If a new coach came in, they'd be like, fire up Adrian Peterson. I would still go Swift. I mean, I guess I'd put it this way. I would much rather lose my championship game with Swift in my starting lineup and him only getting me, say, 6 points because they decided not to use him than lose my fantasy championship because I was like, you know what, they might not use Swift, and then Swift goes off on my bench for like 20-plus points again. Because that, for me, with the way Swift's playing, I feel like it's indefensible to not have him in your lineup. Unless you're rolling out Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and who am I missing off the top of my head who's been one of the better backs in the league
Derrick Henry.
now? Derrick Henry, Kamara. Unless you're rolling out guys like that over him, okay, yeah, go ahead. You're good. Roll those guys out. Don't go Swift. But if you're sitting there and you drafted Swift as like your RB2 and you're like, oh, maybe I should go Peterson, I think you've got to just go Swift. And if it doesn't happen to him, that's been fantasy football for a lot of us this year. So it's just kind of one of those things. I am taking the Buccaneers, though, to win this game. What about you guys?
Tampa Bay.
Me as well.
All right, so I mentioned I got a question on Twitter. It's a defense question, but I'd be curious to get what your guys' answer is. So he said, we're doing 2-week playoffs. Which defense would you guys use? Bills, Miami, Indy, or the Bears? He has the Bills in his lineup from last week. So I'm trying to look. Let's see. So Miami plays.
Bears have Jacksonville. So
Bears have Jacksonville. The Dolphins have
or Las Vegas.
Raiders. Yeah, I don't know. Indy has Pittsburgh. So I'd probably.
And the Bills have the Patriots. I'm probably just sticking with the Bills.
Yeah, for me it'd be Bills or Bears, and I think I'd stick with the Bills, especially with this bad camp.
Who are the Bears have?
They've got
the Jags.
Jacksonville.
The Jaguars.
I just had it here. I
don't know. I mean, why would you? What's the argument for the Bills versus the Patriots instead of the Bears versus the Jags?
Because they've been so bad. The Patriots have been probably just as bad as Jacksonville, especially Cam Newton. And I think if they bench him and go to Stidham, that probably only helps that defense. That defense has been good.
I doubt they're going to pull Cam. I just think the Patriots have been weak, and it looks like Harris may not play again. They don't excite anything, and I think Buffalo is going to blow them out.
Well, because, you got Buffalo's still playing for that second seed, so they're still going out there and playing. I know Chicago's playing for a playoff spot.
Buffalo has the second seed. They just got to keep winning.
Yeah.
That was the whole when Pittsburgh,
that's right.
Buffalo went up. So now if they win out, no one can touch them. So I think they're going to be – plus, they officially won the AFC East last week, but I think there's a piece of them that this is their –
oh, yeah. They want to beat the Patriots.
Taking their divisional lap, yeah.
I mean, my thing is I wouldn't put it past the Jags to find a way to win this game and screw the Bears and their playoff hopes and then screw themselves right back out of Trevor Lawrence after they just got him. So
Doug Marrone will be fired before he leaves the stadium if he allows this team to win.
Yeah, well, he's trying to win, though. So, I don't think there's a wrong answer in those two. I just think I'd stick with the Bills. They've been good all year long. I think it's a perfectly fine matchup. I don't think – Cam Newton in that offense does not scare me at all into putting up a ton of points. So, so that's just my opinion. Where would you go, Dennis? Would you go Bears?
I feel like I'd probably stick with the Bills, but it's pretty close. Part of it is, yeah, I feel like the Jags, especially if Minshew is playing, they don't have anything to lose, and Marone doesn't have anything to lose, and it's not necessarily about winning as opposed to putting up stats that are going to hamper your fantasy defense. So, that being said, I guess I like the Jaguars offense better than I do the Patriots offense at this point. So I guess the Bills are the way to go.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we'll obviously talk about it when we get to it. There's actually a shot that Mike Glennon might play. So Doug Marone came out today and said they're competing all week to see who will be the starter. So I guess we'll find out here.
And if they're really competing, shouldn't they go back to, Luton was the one that was the worst? Shouldn't that be the one that they should be competing to throw out there?
Well, I'm sure if they had a GM, that's who he'd want to be playing. He'd find a way to get Gardner Minshew and Glennon on the COVID list for the next 2 weeks and throw Luton out there. But they don't have a GM anymore. All right, so the Amazon Prime game, the 5-9 49ers at the 8-6 Cardinals. Mullins is out, which also, Matt, makes sense why they made the move yesterday. I don't know if he's having surgery, so that's probably why they went out and picked up Rosen. They wanted someone to back up Beathard because Beathard is starting. Yeah. But Mullins out. Samuel and Mostert out as well. Kittle is doubtful. We'll save Kittle for a minute. Outside of, obviously, you're playing Ayuk with what he's been. Mostert out. We technically still have Tevin Coleman there. I'm pretty sure Jerick McKinnon is still technically alive and on the roster. But is it just Jeff Wilson that you're willing to trust, or are you trusting him to be in your lineup this week for the 49ers?
Not if I can help it. In part because we've seen San Francisco seemingly have a running back lined up to be the guy, and for some inexplicable reason, give some other running back a bunch of touches and let him rack up 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think it's probably less about trusting Jeff Wilson and more about trusting Kyle Shanahan. I do think Wilson probably doesn't quite have the athleticism of, Mostert or Coleman or McKinnon, but in that offense, it's less about athleticism and more about executing the plays, and I think that's why Wilson works there so well. But any of those backs have all settled into that Shanahan running game. So in a perfect world, yes, I would trust Wilson, but because Kyle Shanahan doesn't care about our fantasy teams, man, it's a tough ask.
I mean, it's a decent matchup, and Wilson was arguably the better running back when they were both in there. I guess it depends on my options, whether you think Wilson's going to get a touchdown. I feel better about him knowing that Mostert's out because it seems like I don't know what Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman did other than not be incredibly great, but they seem to have fallen out of the rotation.
Yeah, I think for me, Wilson, if I don't have to use him, I'm not. If I do use him, I'm probably only expecting 40 to 60 yards and hoping for a touchdown. Like, I'm not expecting a massive game out of Wilson. So you're hoping for like a 10 to 12-point day out of him. Kittle is doubtful, but there's been a lot of talk that he might play. They might actually get him out there this week. Doesn't really make much sense to me. The 49ers were eliminated last week. I don't see the reason in forcing your best offensive player outside of Ayuk onto the field. If Kittle does come and play, is there any trust for you guys to put him in your lineup at your tight end position?
I mean, he's the second best tight end in the game. As much as and arguably in Dynasty, if you're doing a startup, he would be the number one tight end off the board, just because Kelsey's 31 years old now.
Yeah.
So I suppose in a Dynasty startup, there's a little reason to be worried about Kittle's injury history. But, man, the dude is just so good. Again, I guess, are you putting your trust in Kittle or are you putting your trust in Shanahan? That's really the question, I think. So, I'd be hard pressed if I'm in the championship game and Kittle has been such a big part of getting me there. I would be hard pressed to leave him on my bench.
Matt? Oh, you're muted.
If Kittle plays, I would assume it's because they think he's, healthy enough to contribute. And, even at 75%, we've seen him put up some monster games. So I guess if Kittle's active, I'm probably putting him out there because Arizona's defense doesn't strike me as the world's greatest. And I think San Francisco is trying to play to win and trying to play to the spoiler role. If I have Kittle and he's active, I feel better about him than when we had this question with Golladay.
Yeah, I just, I feel like this is if Kittle does go out there, it's going to be that he's going to put up like 20 points for you. So I've got to put him in my lineup. I trust that guy way too much. And even though I do trust him, no, I'm sorry, we forgot to talk about Arizona. For Arizona, though, for me, you've got Chase Edmonds and Larry Fitzgerald are questionable. Murray and Hopkins are the only guys that I am willing to start in my championship week. Would you guys trust putting anybody else in?
No Dan Arnold for you?
Not this week. I'm just not feeling the match yet.
Arnold is definitely a desperation play, and Kirk would be as well. I don't hate Kenyon Drake as an RB3. If he just seems to perform. He gets by on that touchdown. He's like a 2-catch, 50 to 70 yard guy, and then he'll get you that touchdown. So he's providing just enough fantasy points to make him flex worthy, high end flex RB3 kind of approach. As always, it's definitely about your options. But if I'm looking at Kenyon Drake or Latavius Murray in my flex spot, I'm probably going Drake because he's the starter. But I also am not going to be surprised if Latavius Murray outscores him. So
yeah, I guess what gives me pause is, I was feeling pretty good about Drake for a couple of weeks, and then last week I was actually playing him, and he did next to nothing. And Chase Edmonds was the one that got the passes, got the touchdown, got in there. What scares me is with both those guys, if they're both active, I mean, Drake could still be the best play, or he could give you 3 points while Edmonds gives you 20. That's been the unfortunate reality. And in a championship game, I'm not sure how great I feel about that.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest fears is what Edmonds is doing. So assuming you have both of them on your team, would you feel comfortable? Which one would you feel more comfortable starting, Drake or Edmonds?
Drake for me.
Drake.
I don't know if comfortable is the word I would use to describe it.
You got to pick one. Who are you throwing in?
I probably Drake, but
in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So
there you go.
Yeah, what I'm worried about is not having any eyes to choose from.
I'm taking the Cardinals to win this game. What about you guys?
Cardinals for me.
I don't remember who I picked. My heart.
You didn't pick anybody. Oh,
my heart wants San Francisco, but I'll probably pick the Cardinals.
All right, the 9-5 Dolphins at the 7-7 Raiders. Gesicki and Parker are questionable. Gaskin has been activated off the COVID-19 list just literally about 30 minutes ago. So they did this earlier in the year off, I think, the injured reserve with the knee injury. He went right into the starting lineup and played. So if he is active, how do you feel about him and Salvon Ahmed, who I feel like are now probably going to hurt each other? I'm not sure I feel comfortable playing either one. What about you guys?
Well, earlier in the season when Gaskin was activated, Ahmed was out. And so it made sense for them to give him all those touches. I agree with you that it's a situation where they're going to cannibalize each other. And it's going to be troubling, to say the least, if you have to start them. I think it kind of bumps Ahmed from an RB2 or Gaskin, if Ahmed is out, from a mid to high RB2, both of them down to flex considerations and rolling the dice because you don't know which one it's going to be. The Raiders have a decent enough defense that it's likely going to not be both of them.
This is the like the Sophie's choice that we talked about. We have narrowly avoided all the time. Ahmed was playing really great, and then Gaskin got activated, and Ahmed was unavailable with the shoulder, and then Gaskin went to COVID, and Ahmed came back. From one standpoint, I'm interested to see how they play together, and it is a good matchup. The Raiders have not exactly had the greatest rush defense. But from another standpoint, I don't know. We have no idea. They have not been on the field together throughout this season. How are they going to play together? How are the reps going to get split? And if you're talking about facing that in a championship game, that's, again, I think once you get to this championship game, you probably have some pretty good options and solid options, or you wouldn't have made it to the title game. So I think part of it is limiting risk. And to me, it's a risk to play either of these guys because you don't know what the split's going to be. They can both have 5 points. They can both have 10 points. They can both have 20 points. Someone could have 25, one have 5. It's going to be interesting to see. I think it'll give us an idea going forward, but this week is a gamble.
Yeah, I think for me, my championship games, I'm just trying to go for the guys who I think are going to give me the most points, and I'm not shooting for upside when I say that. I'm shooting for the guys that I think are going to be consistent, give me points, and let the chips lay. What is it? Chips go where they
fall where they may.
Fall where they may.
I was getting there. We were going to get there eventually. So I do think that Ahmed would still be the better play because we've just seen it a lot. We talked about it obviously a little bit, Matt, on Monday with the Myles Garrett's interview about how COVID's still affecting him. If Gaskin did have COVID, which I don't know if he tested positive or it was just contact tracing, I honestly haven't looked. I wonder if maybe he's still not 100% healthy and good to go. So I would still probably play Ahmed, but I wouldn't feel great about it. I'm going to be honest about that. Outside of Ahmed, are you trusting anybody else on this team? Again, Raiders, it's a pretty good matchup. Maybe throwing Tua out there, but he doesn't have much to throw to. So outside of Tua, for me, I'm not trusting anybody. Ahmed would be, if I had to, I'm throwing him in my lineup, and I wouldn't feel great about it. Outside of Ahmed or Gaskin that you guys just talked about, do you feel comfortable with anybody else?
The receivers are a hodgepodge right now, and you just don't know. If it's not Parker, then they cut my man crush Antonio Callaway. So maybe that means Kirk Merritt's going to get a shot.
No Christmas present for Dennis.
Yeah. So it's if Gesicki's out, Adam Shaheen or Durham Smythe, maybe worthy. I know Shaheen seems to be picking up some playing time there, but for the most part, it's Tua as a low end, mid range QB2 probably. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think they're going to focus on the ground. So I don't think there's a receiver I'm feeling great about trusting.
All right, pick one flex. Tony Pollard, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, Brandon Cooks.
If I knew that Zeke was out, I would be all in on Pollard.
That's what I was going to say, but Zeke came back to practice today, so I don't know if that means he's going to be out or not. So I'm with Matt, Big T. If Zeke if they announce Zeke's not playing, it's Pollard easily for me. Assuming Zeke plays,
Lockett for me because I think DK gets the Ramsey treatment.
Yeah, but he kind of.
Yeah, I'd probably go Cooks against the Bengals.
See, and I'd go Carson. So we would completely split the room there.
So guys, just hope that Zeke is out and then he clarifies it. We're all on the Pollard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's tough. I don't know.
Well, tough thing is on a Wednesday trying to lock yourself into.
Yeah. But I mean, we won't be live again until.
Yeah. No, I know. About the time that you start trusting Brandon Cooks is about the time that Watson only has eyes for Akins and Hansen.
Yeah, I don't know. And because Lockett hasn't been great either. Lockett's been struggling the past 3 or 4 weeks too. So, I mean, the one, yeah, that's tough, man. Hope Zeke's out. That's what I'll say. I'll agree with
I
Matt.
was going for the Seattle player that was not facing Aaron Donald or Jalen Ramsey.
All right, so on the Raiders side here, Ruggs questionable, Renfro questionable, Carr questionable. Aside from Waller, and then I guess possibly Jacobs, because I do think Jacobs has got a tough matchup. Obviously, this Miami's defense. You starting anybody else?
By the way, Carr not just questionable from an injury standpoint; he's just questionable. Period.
Well, that is true.
If Carr's out, if Carr's out, I mean Mariota acquitted himself quite well.
Yeah.
He'd be worthy of a start in my opinion. Now, granted, the defense will have a week to have prepared for him, but it's Jacobs. I'd be willing to start Mariota and comfortably in a super flex, but wide receiver wise, Aguilar he seems to be the wide receiver one there.
I forgot about that.
Miami has some nice corners though.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I changed my mind. I'm reverting back on no, I wouldn't start Aguilar. I was about to agree with you, and then I'm like, yeah, I know. God, that defense is really good, though. I think as good as Mariota looked, I think he helps Jacobs more than anybody else, especially with the way he was running the ball on Thursday night, which I think he can probably still do against him.
He did fairly well feeding Waller the baller, so I think you're all right with Waller. And I'm with Dennis. If I knew it was Mariota, he wouldn't be a terrible super flex option because he's going to run, and I think the Raiders still motivated to win.
Yeah, I mean, because are they technically out? They're not technically out of it, right? They're still like the smallest of margins for them to get in.
By the time this game kicks off, they might be.
Gotcha.
Out of it.
All right. Well, I don't think that's going to matter because I'm picking Miami to win. But what about you guys?
Raiders.
Miami for me.
All right. How close are you two? And we'll save the picks for the very end because obviously, like I mentioned the other day, things have gotten very interesting, especially on my end. One of them.
Well, hey, I just wanted it to be noted that I took a lot of hate last week for some of my picks, like taking Dallas.
I mean, I think that was the only.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America. No, there was a couple where Dennis was like, well, I guess we get to pick on you here. I guess we get. No, you didn't.
I mean, I had great weeks.
I picked up a game. I picked up a game.
All of those games away.
All right, so the 4-10 Atlanta Falcons are going up against the 13-1 Kansas City Chiefs. Julio questionable. Gurley, obviously, we talked about yesterday, was demoted. It is Ito Smith. If Julio is active, are you starting him? And are you willing to play Ito Smith as him being announced as a starter?
What are your expectations for Ito as the starter?
Nothing.
My expectation is that he stays on my bench.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, nothing. I don't want to start him.
I don't want Ito Smith. I don't want Judge Ito. I don't want any Itos this week.
I mean, if I am starting him, I'm certainly not expecting peak Todd Gurley. So, if I can avoid it, by all means, I think I'd probably go Nyheim Hines over Ito Smith.
Yeah.
Julio's a tough one, man, because last week I think was the first week all season that Matt Ryan actually performed well without Julio in the lineup.
That would be correct.
And so, Russell Gage did his Julio imitation instead of disappearing. And Gurley being demoted. Can you demote somebody that's playing that bad? Really? I mean,
technically, I guess you could. Yeah.
So they're not going to get a ton out of the running game. Yeah. They're going to be having to throw the ball. They don't have the running game to maintain possession of the ball. So Atlanta is going to have to be throwing it. They're going to have to be throwing it to somebody. So I guess if Julio's playing, you could probably expect a flex-worthy game out of him. I don't know if I'd expect peak Julio because it does seem like Ridley has sort of ascended to that top spot, if for no other reason than he stayed healthy all season. So it's about the options again. Julio is, he's not fading like AJ Green is faded. Julio, just when he gets injured, he's not on the field. He's not getting you points. Whereas AJ Green has been healthy this year, and when he's on the field, he's not giving you points. So I don't know. I'd probably try to avoid it.
I think the most interesting thing about the Gurley demotion is not that I want to start Ito Smith or I believe in Ito Smith. It's more that, this 1-year contract in Atlanta was kind of supposed to be a big maybe get right and build up for Gurley, and the way it's not gone that well and it's flaming out here, it almost feels like this is the end for him, which would a precipitous decline from being like the number one overall pick in fantasy football and like the number one dynasty pick. I think it was 2018 that, coming into that season, and now 3 seasons later, I can't even imagine. It's hard to imagine what kind of a role or team he could even be on next year.
He's going to be 2021's Lamar Miller.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Not playing.
Yeah.
Lamar Miller has.
He'll spend some time on the practice squad. He'll bounce around. He's just in part and mostly because the knee is just shot.
Yeah.
All right. For Kansas City, we know CEH is out. Are you guys willing to fire up Bell in his stead?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Bell will be good.
I hope you're right, because I feel like this is the game where Bell's going to get a lot of carries, and then Darrell Williams is going to come in and steal those touchdowns, and Bell's not going to come through for you. But I don't think you really have a choice, unfortunately.
He looked good last week coming in. You got to think this is part of the reason they picked him up. If they were happy with giving a ton of carries to Darrell Williams, they wouldn't have made that move.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just feels like this is the perfect Bell's going to screw you game. It's Hill, Kelsey, and Mahomes is really all I trust. For me, I'm picking the Chiefs to win this as well. What about you guys?
Yep,
Chiefs.
All right, so Myles Gaskin is coming off IR, and he is playing the Raiders. Would you drop Mike Davis and put Gaskin in at the flex? I would not, because I just don't know what to expect out of Gaskin.
I also think there's a chance that CMC does not play. So
they've already ruled him out. They already ruled him out.
Well, then Davis would be a much better play.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would not. I like Gaskin a lot. I actually think Gaskin's better than Davis, but I just coming off COVID, we've seen a lot of these players here recently talking about how much it's really really hurt them physically when it comes to being conditioned and ready for the NFL games. I don't know how good Gaskin's going to be, so I would much rather roll with Mike Davis there. The 7-7 Chicago Bears at the 1-13 Jacksonville Jaguars. You've got Patterson questionable for the Bears. David Montgomery, Allen Robinson are obviously smashes in your lineup. They've been phenomenal, especially in this back half here. But what do you guys feel about Mitchell Biscuits?
Man, I have Trubisky at my QB 9.
Nice. Okay.
I mean, Jacksonville sucks. And he's got A-Rob, he's got Mooney, Cole Kmet's coming on, David Montgomery. We hear narratives all the time in fantasy football. Oh, such and such has a soft schedule here or this or that. Well, it's playing out for David Montgomery. He has been balling out at the end of the season where everybody's like, oh, get Montgomery mid-season because his fantasy playoff schedule is killer. Well, and he's actually coming through and putting up the numbers. So I think that Mitch has the same issues he's always had. So there's going to be some terrible throws. But, I mean, the Jaguars are terrible. And it's going to be what it is. Mitch will roll out. Nagy has decided for whatever reason to finally start to put Mitch into situations where he excels, like rolling out. Robinson will get his 10 or 12 targets. He's going to give you the numbers. Montgomery is getting the volume. And so by default, that means Mitch is going to get something going on. He's probably, a 240-yard, 2-touchdown with 55 to 65 yards on the ground. I'll take that from my quarterback. Maybe he gets 3 touchdowns because Montgomery takes a pass and makes it to the end zone. I like the Bears. The Bears.
I just didn't know you let Ryan Pace fill out your ranking for him this week. QB9. Oh, shit. Christmas came early for Mitch. I actually like him as a play this week too, especially in Superflex, which probably means this is the week he gives you 105 passing yards and 3 interceptions because we're all on the Mitch Trubisky train.
I'm all in on him too. I have him, I think, at 11. So I'm close to Dennis, not all the way in, but I'm right there. He's been phenomenal. And
Ryan Pace's brother did yours.
Yes, he did. I submitted it to him. I've been busy the past couple of days, so I sent it to him, see if he'd help me out. But, we talked about it on Monday. We both agreed that Chicago messed this up by not picking up his 5th-year option, and now they might end up having to pay him or not have a quarterback who's actually been good.
They kind of should. I bet Chicago at worst finishes 8-8 because I think, not to jump ahead in picks, but I have a hard time believing any of us are on the Jaguar train this
Jags,
week.
Baby.
So you're not going to be a super high pick. And the way Mitch, it finally feels like this offense has figured it out. Might have saved, we were talking mid-season, was Nagy going to get fired? Was Pace going to get fired? They might have saved their job and Mitch saved them. Now they just got to make sure they get Robinson back.
Yeah. For Jacksonville, Robinson won't practice all week, but they're saying that he will likely play. Outside of Robinson, I don't think you can play anybody else, at least in my opinion. As much as I love Chark, you can't fire him up. So unless you guys have somebody else, go ahead and throw him out there. Other than that, are you concerned about Robinson at all, who's obviously been phenomenal all season long, but is dealing with an ankle injury?
Well, I think you take that defensive line and those linebackers and you match James Robinson with a bum ankle up against it. I love James Robinson, and I'm going to have to start him in a spot, but I'm not expecting a great production out of him.
Yeah, but he's been pretty stable. That's what I'm trying to look up. I have him in a couple of leagues. I don't think he's given you less than 10 points, so I'm a little concerned about the ankles. So what's his lowest? Yeah, his lowest for me is 10 points in a PPR league. And that was early in the season. In this back stretch, I haven't seen less than 12 points. To me, that feels like a pretty stable floor and pretty reliable when you're talking about going into a championship game. It's not a great matchup, so I don't know if you can expect a huge explosion, but he's the only Jaguar I feel comfortable with, and it sounds like they're more just trying to protect him and save him for the game than him being truly injured. I think that's why the coach comes out and says, hey, he's got an ankle issue. I'm not going to use him in practice, but don't worry, we're going to see him on Sunday.
Yeah, with as good as he's been all year long, I think you've got to throw him in there. It's just kind of the same thing I said about Swift early. I'd much rather lose with him in my lineup than lose with him on my bench and he goes off. It's definitely a tough matchup. It's not going to be easy for him, but they're going to rely on him likely more than anybody else. So give me James Robinson. And I am taking the Bears to win, although I'd love to see Jacksonville win just because I do not want to see Justin Fields in New York.
I'm taking the Bears as well.
I'm taking the Bears too, and I don't know that you guarantee you see Justin Fields in New York, even if they have the 2 pick.
Well,
yeah, I feel like New York is trending towards taking Sewell, in my opinion.
Well, hey, I'd love it. I just don't. Well, I take that back because I did say on another podcast here recently that I think Joe Brady could end up as their head coach, and if that happens, I would not hate Justin Fields going there. It's just more of if they decide to I would be stunned if they did it, but it seems like the most New York Jets thing to do to keep Adam Gase there and just be like, no, you know what? We're finally know what we're doing. We're heading in the right direction. We're gonna figure it all out. So the 3-10-1 Bengals going up against the 4-10 Texans. Brandon Allen, Tyler Boyd are questionable. Gio Bernard won some people. Oh, possibly. I know he won at least one person I know, my best friend, his chance to make it to the championship. Many other people might not have started him, but if you did, he came through for you big time. Obviously, this is a plus matchup for him going up against the Texans. Are you back on the Gio train?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that the Bengals in general look good with Finley at quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, last off season, before the Finley draft, my initial projections, I think I had Finley at like my QB 4 or something. But as my evaluation went on, I ended up dropping him down closer to like 9 or 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere there's and rightfully so. You know, is Finley going to come on and be a superstar quarterback? No, but I do think that being in the NFL has allowed him time to grow into the position, and he looked pretty good. Zach Taylor gave them a game plan that played to Finley's strengths and let him run the ball some. You know, he had a 4.7 340 at the combine, and I think like an 80% burst score or something like that. And so he was able to use that skill last week and provide some a little boost to that offense that they weren't getting from Allen. To me, I think they should leave Finley in for the next 2 games. I think he's your long-term backup to Joe Burrow. I don't think he doesn't have the arm talent Burrow has and stuff, but you know, you want to get a backup that has skill sets similar to your starter. And I think Finley suits that more than Kyle Allen does. So let Finley play these 2 games. You know, let him, throw to AJ Green. That was a beautiful pass he completed. But it's going to be T. Higgins. I don't know if Boyd is going to come off the concussion protocol or not. But yeah, roll Gio out there. Let Finley play.
Yeah, I think I'm rolling Gio out there too because it's a pretty good matchup against the Texans, and their running game was the best part of their offense. I'm also in there with Finley. You know what Brandon Allen is at this point. He's okay as a backup, but you drafted Finley for a reason. It's hard to believe coming off that performance on Monday night and winning that game against the Steelers the way they did that you wouldn't give him a chance to finish the season. You drafted him for a reason.
Yeah, I'm all with you. Roll Gio, roll, and hope he doesn't throw out that like 5-point game. But I'm all in. It is a great matchup. I can't imagine he doesn't come through, especially if they can play anything close to what they did there Monday night against the Steelers. For Houston, Duke Johnson's questionable. Aside from Watson, who are you guys trusting here? I think for me, it's just David Johnson. I don't think I can trust any of these wide receivers. I'd love to fire up Jordan Akins, but no, it's not happening. What about you guys?
No, I definitely rolling David Johnson out there. What he had like 11 pass receptions for 100 yards or something last week. And we know that that's well within his skill set. We've seen that before from him. Against the Bengals, I think DJ will be able to run the ball pretty decently as well. But I'm comfortable with Brandon Cooks too. I think he's their wide receiver 1. If we can keep all those checkdowns going to Kiki Cutie, that might be good for Brandon Cooks. So I like Cooks as a flex option.
David Johnson, I'd be okay with, especially if you've got him. He's been a solid RB2 all year. I'm not confident of any of the receivers. Brandon Cooks was the 3rd best receiver by points last week for Houston. He could have a good game. He could not. We saw a good pass defense or a good pass offense in Pittsburgh going up against the Bengals on Monday night and didn't always look that great. So I don't know that I'm super confident to start any of them in a title game.
Well, I think Ben certainly is struggling with his passing. I think that elbow is providing him with a lot more issues than they let on versus the kind of game that Deshaun Watson can put up. Now, certainly the Steelers wide receivers are much better than the Texans, but I certainly want Watson over Ben.
Yeah, but I think it's also I don't know that Brandon Cooks is that much better than Kiki Kuti, to be honest. We haven't seen an exceptional season from him. Yeah, and he wasn't exceptional last year. What if the Rams moved on from him the same way they moved on from Gurley because they had their suspicions?
All right, I am taking, I guess, the Texans.
I'm taking Houston.
So am I.
All right, the 10-4 Browns at the 1-13 New York Jets. Chubb is starting. I think you can start Landry and Baker, in my opinion. Outside of those three, I don't feel comfortable starting the tight ends or Higgins or DPJ. What about you guys?
Well, I'd love to be able to start Kareem Hunt. I feel like it's one of those games where Chubb should do his work in the first quarter and a half, and then Hunt and Ernest Johnson go the rest of the way. But I feel like it could be a situation where maybe the Jets go on they've started a win streak. They're turning things around. They want to show that they're not tanking. All right. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Fireman Ed's going to go light Adam Gase's house on fire if they win this game. And actually, we may not see our friend Matt here next week.
I might set my house on fire if the Jets win this game, not just Fireman Ed.
No, I actually have Chubb ranked as my RB1 this week. I feel like he's gonna. I don't know that he's gonna play the fourth quarter, but I feel like Chubb is gonna rack up. This is one of those games where Chubb has 14 carries for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, breaks a couple big ones. Kareem Hunt gets lots of playing time, maybe even out-snaps him because the Browns put it away fairly early. It's tough. The Jets are bad, and I understand that they're on a mission and they've screwed that up. So what do they have to lose now? Now they have to keep losing and hope that Jacksonville doesn't realize that they can draft Trevor Lawrence and actually wins another game. But
the mayor of Jacksonville wore a Trevor Lawrence jersey after that last week, so I think everyone in the city is aware of their situation.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think if I'm starting. I'm probably going to lean on the Browns running backs, but that's pretty much where my comfort zone is.
Yeah, I like Chubb a lot. I think Baker would be decent super flex option. I don't know if I'm totally sold on him in a one quarterback league, and Landry's been decent. Especially with probably where you might have drafted him, wouldn't be a bad flex option to me. But I think Cleveland's going to win this game pretty handily.
Top 12 QB every single week since the bye week. He's been phenomenal, and I don't see that Jets defense slowing him down any, especially without his boy Greg Williams there now. I mean,
the question is not whether the Jets defense is good enough to slow him down, but whether he actually needs to put up much for them.
I think they're going to keep rolling with that passing game. I really do. They've kind of hit a stride. I think they want to keep Baker hot for as long as possible. The Jets side, outside of, I guess, the running joke every week, outside of Dennis's boy Braxton Berrios, we starting anybody here? I mean, again, he's been looking good. I just don't think
I've also broken up with Braxton Berrios. I'm not starting him either.
Well, they're going to have to throw the ball. There's not
that is true.
So that being said, I think Darnold might be, if you're looking at a low end super flex QB2, you could probably do worse than Darnold just on volume alone.
Could you?
Though Well,
Gardner,
probably
maybe.
not.
Or Glennon. There's
Look,
at least one.
I'm just going to put this out there. If you're starting a Jet in your championship game, it's a cry for help.
You're not going to go out Lawrence Cager or Jeff Smith?
God, no.
Denzel Mims. No, they're going to have to throw. The Browns are going to be able to put up some points. And so, granted, they're going to – the Jets are kick a field goal down 17 in the, third quarter.
Yeah.
That's their approach to the season. But I feel like Darnold is going to finish inside the top 20. He'll be somewhere around 18, 19, 20. So in super flex, I suppose you could do worse.
I hope not. I feel like that means the question put some points up, but I was hoping for an easy game Sunday. I'm taking the Browns to win, though.
I'm taking the Browns to win, too.
Browns for me as well.
The 10-4 Colts at the 11-3 Pittsburgh Steelers, probably one of the games of the weekend here. For the Colts, you're starting Taylor with the run that he's been on. What are you guys doing with the Indy receivers? We saw Pittman go off for a couple of weeks, then T.Y. Hilton. Zach Pascal was going off last week. Is this the start of the Pascal run? Which wide receiver are you trusting to put in your lineup for the Colts?
I think trust is using that word loosely, but it's T.Y. Hilton.
One of the receivers will have a good game. T.Y. Hilton is probably the best if you had to choose, but I'm not playing any of them. Not after last week.
I think I'm going T.Y. too. I don't know what else to do. I can't fathom putting Zach Pascal in my lineup. So it's gonna be T.Y. and hoping for the best. I don't see any.
Marcus Johnson.
It's the Mo Alley Cox game.
Yeah, that's probably true. Or Trey Burton. It'll be Mo Alley Cox and Trey Burton, and nobody else will do anything.
No, they really, with Rivers, it's been amazing. They can support one good fantasy day receiver. A couple other, maybe have mediocre days or low end flex, but only one. It's just, if you don't have that one, you're screwed.
On Pittsburgh's side, Ebron and Connor are questionable. Do you think that the Steelers rebound this week, and who would you feel comfortable playing?
Haven't the Steelers been rebounding for 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 or 4, yeah.
I don't believe they're capable of rebounding at this point. I mean, I'm still playing Deontay Johnson, but I think Dennis is right. There are problems. Winning glossed over some of the fact that they didn't always look great at the beginning of the season. They have looked poor of late, and I don't think this is the get-well matchup they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, Indy's got a good defense, and so it's going to be a tough matchup. I would expect a relatively low-scoring game, a 23-17 kind of game or 20-14. But I don't know. I think Deontay is the one. If Ebron's out, it's probably one of those crazy, Vance McDonald 3-catch for 90 yards and a touchdown that's going to screw everybody out of screw half of the people in their playoffs because nobody starts him.
Yeah, I'm going Deontay. He works perfect for that short passing game they want to use. I think that's going to be their best bet. He as everybody was joking, he didn't look like Deontay Dropson last week. He actually looked like the old guy who was producing for you. So I'm all in on Deontay. That's about it. I am taking the Colts to win only because I'm trying to put that positive juju out there to get the great Week 17 matchup. So I'm going Colts. What about you guys?
I picked Pittsburgh.
This one's for you, Tony. Colts.
The Colts, the team that all three of us shit on at the beginning of the year, and they have a chance to win their division. It's just, that's great. All right, so Ravens D versus the Giants, Browns D versus the Jets, or Bears D versus Jacksonville. I am probably going Bears. I think for me,
I'm gonna go the Browns.
I love
help.
the Ravens.
We are screwing Big T over here today. We keep going upset. I mean, if Dennis is going Browns, I'll go Browns too. They did get Ward back. Garrett's been getting healthier and healthier. That linebacking core has been good. I'll take my Brownies. I think they're going to have a big game this week. So I'll go Browns too.
I just feel like Jacksonville has a better shot to put up points against the Bears than the Jets do against Cleveland.
Fair
I think
enough.
Jacksonville could get more yards, more points.
All right, the 5-9 Giants at the 9-5 Ravens. Daniel Jones questionable. You starting any Giants this week? My answer is no.
No.
I mean, you might have to, by default, start Gallman.
No.
Not after last week.
Not against the Ravens either. I don't trust him. Gallman only gets you points in my
Any
opinion
team
for
where-
touchdowns. I don't think he's
Any
getting
team where I had to start Wayne Gallman has since been eliminated from playoff contention.
It's going to be tough. But then again,
We're glad not to give you an answer. I feel like that's what we did.
it's a situation where the game it's going to come down to how healthy Jones is. They say he's moving better this week, but there's still some issues after the throw. He's not able to get into his throws. Jones has a history of turning the ball over anyways, and going against that Ravens defense, it could be, he's going to have to do just enough to keep the defense honest, and that might be good for Gallman. I don't know if I'm expecting 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I'm expecting 10 carries
what are
for
your options?
24 yards, maybe a touchdown. So, no, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'm not doing it. For Baltimore side, Jackson, Dobbins, and Andrews are all in your lineup. How do you guys feel about Hollywood Brown, who has come on here the past couple of weeks?
If I can avoid him, I am. But I wasn't big on him coming into the league. I will say he's met my expectations. I guess I'll that's probably the nicest way I could put it. I want to see them give Dobbins 20 carries. That's what I want.
I think he'll get a lot of carries. The thing about Brown, he seems to be in a groove lately of catching touchdowns. It's been several games. Even last week, it looked like he was not going to play until he got activated and comes and gets a touchdown. I think if you're looking for a high upside, disastrous floor, pick this, to slot into your flex. Like, let's say your projections have you losing by a lot and you want to swing for the fences. I drop him in there.
Yeah, I'd probably avoid him just based on what Matt just said. I'm looking to get guys I trust to get me points. That's it. I don't want upside guys because upside guys bring you that disastrous floor because I don't like looking at the projection side of things just because your opponent's team could easily shit the bed even with a ton of great players on their team. You don't know what's going to happen. So for me, I'm just trying to get the best players in with the most points available to me. So I'm probably avoiding Brown this week as well, just because I do think he's got a better shot at giving you that disastrous floor than the high upside he's given you the past couple weeks. I'm taking Baltimore to win this game. Who are you guys picking?
Baltimore.
Ravens for me.
The 5-9 Broncos at the 5-9 Chargers. Lindsey and Freeman are questionable. Gordon is probably an easy play for you guys. You trust in anybody else?
Is Fant healthy?
Yes.
Santa Claus is healthy.
That's probably the only pass catcher I trust. Tim Patrick has had a nice run. Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler have popped off here and there. At this point, using your I want guys I can count on, you're probably not counting on any of those guys. And given that tight end is kind of a wasteland, that might make sense. You might want to pop Fant into your lineup there. But I think Gordon I think Gordon has moved Matt from visceral hate to toleration.
You would be incorrect. And in fact, most of Broncos Twitter said if he doesn't get cut in the offseason, John Elway should get fired. So he's probably the best play right now, but if he also went and laid down in traffic, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think Fant is the other one probably that you're borderline trusting.
Yeah, I'm in on Fant too. I kind of forgot about him, but that is it for me. On the Chargers side, you're playing Herbert, you're playing Allen, you're playing Eckler. Anybody else? Hunter Henry?
I don't
Mike
know.
Williams?
Keenan Allen fucked me last week. You know, three places. I felt like a naughty girl. He got me in 3 different places. It was terrible.
This one's not going to be recommended by the Focus on the Family Task Force.
No, not at all.
But, Hunter Henry had a decent game last week. I don't think he's the worst option at tight end, but probably feel more comfortable with the other 3. Dennis does raise a fair point. Allen's not really on the injury list right now, so presumably
but
he's
he
healthy.
did not practice today with a hamstring issue. That literally just popped up on Twitter about 2 minutes ago.
Alan, it was nice to know you.
Yeah, so I'm throwing him out there. It is what it is.
It's because your team's no longer playing for a championship if you threw him out there last week.
True.
They're gonna be likely without Allen, without Williams. It's gonna be Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson. Roll those 2 guys out there. Hope for the best, and let Herbert do what Herbert does. Invest in the Herbert side of it, not in the wide receiver side of the equation.
All right, I am taking the Chargers to continue their win streak. What about you guys?
Chargers for me.
The Broncos.
It's the week I catch up to Matt.
Way to stay loyal, Matt.
These are the games that Drew Lock wins to buy himself
another year,
another season of mild disappointment. Denver's tracking. They're going to beat these guys. They're going to beat the Raiders. They're going to finish 7-9 again. I'm going to spend months convincing myself that they showed promise this season, only to be right back off the wagon next November.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I've been doing that for quite a few decades myself, so I feel your pain. All right, so let's see who we at. Panthers 4-10, Carolina at 6-8, Washington. CMC has been now ruled out by Coach Matt Rule. So who you trusting in this one? Obviously, a very tough matchup. You've got Mike Davis in his stead. DJ Moore has been on fire. What are you guys doing?
I think they're going up against a good defense. They're going to have to make some plays. The wide receivers are a little bit roulette oriented, but DJ Moore has come on as of late. I feel like he's probably the safest receiver. And then Robbie and Samuel will kind of have to make do with what's left over. I think, Davis is the starter. He's not producing at the level he was earlier, and Rodney Smith has ended up taking snaps and being productive, much of the chagrin of a couple of my fantasy teams that are now playing in third place instead of the championship game. But I think if you got this far starting Mike Davis, you're probably still starting him.
Yeah, I think Davis, Moore, and Anderson are probably all considerations depending on what your other options are. It's not a great matchup, but those guys have had pretty solid seasons.
Yeah, I'm going Davis and then Moore. Anderson's just kind of faded. I don't know if I can trust putting him in there, but Moore has been really good. And I know Mike Davis has the tough matchup, but he's going to get the entire workload, I would think, running and possibly catches. So I'm still throwing Davis in my lineup. For Washington, Gibson and Smith are questionable. If Alex Smith is a go, do you trust starting him? And what do you think that does for, say, Thomas and McLaurin? Do you feel better having Smith out there or Dwayne Haskins?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it mattered because both Thomas and McLaren did pretty well with Dwayne Haskins. I think if Smith is healthy enough, they're going to start him, especially after good old strip club incident. Since Haskins was just stripped as, I forgot he was still the team captain. It's not good enough to play, but apparently they didn't want to make him not a captain until he went to the strip club.
If Gibson is active, are you guys sliding him into your lineup at all?
Is he scheduled to come back? Is he?
I mean,
he's questionable. He hasn't been ruled out.
It was questionable. He was actually practicing late last week. There, people thought he might have played last week. So,
I mean, yeah. If he plays, I mean, he's shown himself to be a dynamic presence on the field, far surpassing what I expected from him. So I would be, if he plays and he's on my roster, I would be hard pressed to find somebody to start over him.
It's a decent matchup too.
Yeah.
I am taking the Washington football team, Ron Rivera, locking up the playoff spot, beating his old team. Who are you guys taking?
Washington.
I took Carolina, but I'm going to switch it to Washington.
It's a good pick. Good pick. The 4-9-1 Eagles at the 5-9 Dallas Cowboys. Rager is questionable. Can Hurts do it again? I personally have Sanders in my lineup. I think he's a great play. Do you guys have any questions about Sanders, and do you think Hurts can put up another heroic performance?
Heroic losing performance?
Yeah, has it really been heroic?
Look, I'm talking about fantasy. He's gotten you points. That's all I care about. I don't care what the Eagles do on the field NFL-wise. They're not making the playoffs, in my opinion. So I'm all about those fantasy points.
I mean, Dallas is pretty bad. Philadelphia is pretty bad. Something's got to give. You know, somebody has to win it. I feel like Hurts is playing well enough at this point that I think he'll be able to lead Philadelphia to a close victory. I don't know. It's a crapshoot. I'm just guessing with these two teams. It's an intra-division game. They always seem to mean more, especially between these two teams, and who knows. It's a game where there's enough people banged up. Ertz coming back off of being injured. You know, Alshon Jeffrey's in the mix, mucking things up for Philadelphia now. So I don't know. And if Zeke is out, honestly, Zeke playing is probably worse for Dallas than if he sits out because Tony Pollard has looked so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hurts is going to have another decent game for fantasy, and I like Sanders. He's, last week wasn't incredible, but he's seemingly played well. You usually a running quarterback, which Hurts is, benefits a running back. I think that'll be good. And I'm with Dennis. I think Dallas would be better served if Ezekiel Elliott doesn't play. So would fantasy owners at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree. As we talked about with the question earlier, Pollard seemed to be an easy pick for all of us if Zeke is out. I just don't see the point putting him back out there. He's not.
Obviously, injured or
has a chance to win their division, but I don't know why you'd put him back out there. You've got is Amari Cooper the only wide receiver you feel comfortable starting out of that group with Gallup, him, and CeeDee Lamb?
I think Amari has the most trust from me. It feels like he's just been he gets the consistent opportunity. Any given week, it could be Lamb or it could be Gallup going off as the second receiver. And so that's a little bit harder to digest, especially in a championship game. So if I had to choose, typically I have, I think, one or two teams where I have rostered Gallup and CeeDee Lamb this season. And in every situation when faced with the choice to start only one of them, I've always started CD.
Yeah, and Gallup's banged up. He has a knee injury that's had him limited this week. I think Cooper's the one I trust the most, but I do like Lamb. It's hard to get away from that talent.
Yeah. I am taking – I think I'm going to pick the Eagles.
I took the Eagles as well.
I took the Dallas freaking Cowboys.
Never change, man. Never change. All right. The 9-5 Rams at the 10-4 Seahawks. Massive game for both of these teams. Akers is out. You're obviously putting Woods and Kupp in your lineup. What are you doing at the running back position? You trusting putting Henderson or Malcolm Brown in?
Henderson would be the play for me. I think he has shown the explosiveness this season. He's figured out that offense a little bit better than last season. And, the Rams know what they have with him, and they know what they have with Brown too. And that's why when push comes to shove, I think will lean Henderson over Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown is your safe school. While Henderson isn't Harvard or Yale, Malcolm Brown is your safe school.
Yeah, I think Henderson's the better play of the two. To be honest, I don't know if I feel great about starting either of them if I'm playing for a championship.
Yeah, as good as Henderson was earlier in the year, I'm kind of with Matt on this one. I think Henderson's probably the play. I don't trust putting either one in. The Seattle Seahawks front is really good. I'm not even sure the Rams end up winning this game. On Seattle's side here, you're putting in DK, you're putting in Lockett. There's just no way you can sit him. But as we've discussed for the past couple of weeks, Russ has just not been that good. What are you expecting out of him? Are you confident playing him? And do you think he can have a good game against this very good Rams defense?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I actually have Russ down at QB 12 this week. It's going to be whether or not DK or Lockett, I think, can break off a big play or two. I feel more like it's a Chris Carson game, and maybe the ghost of Rashad Penny bears his head. Russ
never changed. That's never changed.
Russ is playing. I think he's playing smart football. He's not exploding like he was earlier in the season. That doesn't mean he can't or that they won't. I just, maybe it has what is Russ? He's 30, 31 now. He's starting to get into that next stage of his career. And with the running game they have, DK Metcalf, he doesn't have to carry the team like he used to. So I think Russ will be fine. He's going to be – I got him, at, like I said, at 12. So he's a low-end 1, high-end 2.
So if Rashad Penny goes for 100 yards, how many tweets should we expect to see from you on Sunday afternoon?
Fucking all of them. All of them.
Oh, man.
If he goes for 12 yards.
To answer your question, I'm not that confident in Russ right now. Last week was pretty brutal in the playoffs where I left Herbert on the bench in a couple of places to play Russell Wilson. I'm not doing that this week.
Yeah, I feel like Russ is going to show up. This is a massive game, but I'm not – if you're asking me on a trust scale, I'd probably put it like a 5. He's been really bad these past couple weeks, so I don't feel confident at all.
He's not been terrible. He's just been average. We're used to seeing like Super Russ.
Yeah. I am taking the Seahawks to win, though.
Me too.
So am I.
All right. We are back, Cameron. It's going to be a fun game. We need Indy to come through for us, man. Indy needs to beat Steelers, make Week 17 a lot more fun for us Browns fans. Tennessee 10-4 at the 11-3 Green Bay Packers. Derrick Henry has got to keep it rolling, right? He's playing one of the worst rush defenses in the league in the Packers. Outside of him, are Davis and Brown in your lineups? You picking one or the other?
Boy, it's a tough call. I think right now I'm leaning Davis. Davis just seems to be getting a little bit more volume, and Brown makes up for it with his super high efficiency. But I'm for whatever reason, as much as I like AJ Brown, I've developed a little bit of trust in Corey Davis this year. I don't know how many. I don't know how many passing plays Tennessee's going to have with Derrick Henry and the Packers giving up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. Henry may carry the ball 40 times. Keep Aaron Rodgers off the field.
Henry's only 321 yards shy of 2,000, and we know that's a big goal for him. So I think he keeps it rolling, keeps going. In terms of the receivers, I like A.J. Brown. I think he's the better of the two guys. I also think he's more likely to get Jair Alexander, in which case Davis may be the better play for fantasy.
Agreed, because Jair Alexander is that dude. I mean, I love that kid. So I'm all with you guys on Corey Davis, which is just weird to say in championship week of 2020 that we're all in on Corey Davis of all wide receivers.
Corey Davis and Rashad Penny. That's how you get your title.
That's it.
From Dennis first.
2020, baby. On the Packers side, do we see Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers bouncing back? Wasn't a horrible week for them last week, but it hasn't been what they were doing. Tennessee's secondary is god-awful, I think is the polite way to put it. So do they bounce back this week?
Aaron Rodgers does Aaron Rodgers things, and that's pass the ball to Devontae Adams. So I would expect a big game for Devontae. The challenge being, how many possessions are the Packers going to get if Derrick Henry is, chewing up 6 or 8 yards a pop, and Mike Vrabel says, we have a better chance of winning this game with Aaron Rodgers on the sideline than we do with Aaron Rodgers on the field. It's going to be a really interesting war of wills between Rodgers and that Green Bay offense and their big play ability, and Tennessee and Derrick Henry and their ability to just grind the clock and run the clock. This might be probably the game I'm looking most forward to this week. It's the juxtaposition of offenses are going to be something. And an interesting thing I saw earlier this week was a comparison that's mentioned something about Aaron Jones being, the next Alvin Kamara, which to me is like, okay, I see that. He's as great a runner as Jones is, man. He is like Kamara in the passing game. He can do a lot in the passing game. So, I love me some Aaron Jones. And but yeah, if I had to put money down, I'm gonna put some money on Rodgers. Well, I take that back. I'm gonna put it on Adams because Rodgers can easily have a game where he throws the ball 25 times, 14 of them go to Devontae Adams, and Rodgers gets 200 yards and 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. And Devontae Adams racks up the points, but Rodgers doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with Dennis. I think it's going to be a heck of a matchup. I don't think it was a terrible game for Adams and Rodgers last week. They just didn't need them to win. Jones was going off, so he saw what he needed. Tennessee has struggled to defend the pass all season. I think we're going to see Adams is going to start a new touchdown streak.
I hope so. And I think the one thing that'll help the Packers in that, or at least for us fantasy owners, is if the Packers do get up a couple touchdowns on Tennessee quick, that they'll start to move away from Derrick Henry a little bit. And that'll obviously increase our chances of getting Adams points. Really quick before we pick the game, do you think with that happening, this might hurt Aaron Jones a little bit in this game, who's obviously been pretty good this year as well, sitting at RB5, which I don't think any of us expected. I think we all expected him to drop a little bit. And without the missed games, he might have been right up there like RB2 again, like he was last year.
Aaron Jones has 1,000 potential. I mean, he's an excellent pass receiver, dynamic runner. We've seen it was a little disappointing last week when he broke that one and he got caught. So he doesn't maybe have 80-yard long speed. He has more 65-yard long speed, which is still fast. But no, I think Jones is fine.
I think Jones will be fine too.
All right, I'm taking the Packers to win this one. What about you guys?
Taking
Packers.
Tennessee.
All right,
It's
last
the game that puts me over. It's the game that ties me up or puts me past Matt right there.
The last game of Week 16, the Buffalo Bills 11-3 at the 6-8 New England Patriots on Monday Night Football. Diggs questionable. You guys concerned at all about Diggs if they announce he plays, or if he doesn't, who's the wide receiver you would lean on?
If Diggs is out, I don't think it's necessarily a question of who are you going to lean on, because Cole Beasley has shown Diggs can get his and Beasley gets his. So then it comes down to what's Gabriel Davis going to do? And we've seen him start to use Dawson Knox more in the passing game. The running backs are coming around. Singletary's doing well in the passing game. So Diggs being questionable, I would think against New England, they'll still find their way to do things. They'll run the ball a little bit more probably, but it'll come down to Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox really picking up the slack. Beasley will get his 12 targets and 10 catches.
Yeah, if Diggs is active, I'm playing him, because I think he's just been too good. If he's out, I think he bumps up Davis and Singletary for me.
Yeah, I think if Diggs is out, it's all Beasley. He's, we had Bob Lung on earlier in the year, and he told us about it. And man, has Beasley not disappointed at all. New England, Damian Harris questionable. We talked about it earlier with the Bills defense. Obviously, do you guys feel comfortable playing any Patriots?
No.
Nope.
I am with you guys.
N'Keal Harry, maybe.
That's a joke. I'm taking the Bills.
I'm taking the Bills too.
Bills for me as well.
Matt, you want to look up the pigskin pick'em stuff really quick? Do you have it available?
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Well, let's do these questions really quick, and then we'll do it. Pittsburgh defense or Carolina? And should I start Young Ho Koo or the Dallas kicker? Definitely Young Ho Koo, because he's been phenomenal all season long. I'd still probably go Young Ho Koo.
Dallas kicker is Greg Zuerlein.
Yeah, but Young Ho Koo has been like the best kicker for fantasy all season long.
This is a Young Wei Koo season, so I'm taking Young Wei Koo in the Pittsburgh defense.
Yeah, I'm taking Pittsburgh as well. I ain't trusting Carolina. No way, no how.
Taking Pittsburgh's defense and Greg the Leg.
Absolutely, go Browns. Massive, massive week for us. And yes, I think you've got to. They said that they're resting him because they want him to be healthy for the game. He's really the only thing they've got. I don't think you can trust. I think he's going to be fine. As Matt mentioned when we talked about that game, he has not put up less than 10 points all season long. I think he's going to do the same thing this week. All right, so go ahead and give us the update on Pigskin Pick'em.
So in the network group, we all had pretty good weeks last week. You and Dennis got 13 right. Me and Lindsay got 12 right. So you are at 153. I'm 10 back at 143. Dennis making the comeback is at 139. And then in our Discord channel grouping, I think this is the one you were most excited about. Justin only had 11 last week, so he made up 2. He's got 154. You are at 153, coming dangerously close to catching him with 2 weeks. Rob is at 148, a little bit back of both you guys, and then I'm at 143 in fourth.
You know what the most frustrating part about that is, too? Was that Thursday night game that I forgot there was a Thursday night game and I didn't pick the Eagles to win. I didn't put it in. I picked it when we did our show, but I forgot to put it in. We would be tied right now. It would make things very interesting. All right, last question before we get out of here. Kiki Kuti or Jeff Wilson Jr.? I am going Jeff Wilson. Who are you guys?
Wilson.
Yeah, I lean Wilson.
All right, so that will do it for us today. You will not see us again until Monday, where me and Matt will be back recapping and talking week 16. We'll then start probably just transitioning to some dynasty stuff. Not a lot of teams play week 17. We'll still discuss week 17, but we'll start transitioning more toward our off-season content. Everybody who's listened, paid attention, jumped into YouTube, everything, thank you. Hope you've had a great year. Merry Christmas to you guys. Have a happy holiday as well. And enjoy the games this weekend and enjoy your family if you're able to spend time with them.
Right on.